The Light Emperor is coming to save Azeroth. A new faction. Okay. I don't know about the new faction. Dorn might be debating us on that one. But this one about the Light Emperor, who is this guy? I don't know anything about him yet. But let's find out what Dorn has to say.
So we just got an insane amount of new lore. Apparently, the Light Emperor exists on the other side of Azeroth, and he is the one that sent this Hellfall expedition 15 years ago, as he got a vision of the final battle between the Light and the Void in a place named
I
Renilash.
have a damn eye infection. What do you want me to do? I can't wear my contacts today. Jesus Christ, I gotta wear glasses. I'm still mortal. What am I gonna do?
Anduin then confirms this vision is the exact same he got in the cinematic. Unexpectedly, the humans were then teleported to Belladar instead, where they ended up trapped. Then, when the Sargeras' sword was plunged into Azeroth, the light crystal shifted to darkness for the first time ever, which might actually be the reason Sargeras decided to plunge the sword in the first place. It might uncover the mystery of the Silithus sword. The Emperor is apparently very powerful, and he could be our ally. So let's take a look at what is this new information that we got, as there is like 1,000,001 new hints. The coolest tool ever to learn programming is here.
Learn to program.
A learning RPG game. If you wanna.
For a second, I thought he was gonna say the Light Emperor is Tyrellian. I feel like he's gonna be a big issue. Going forward, Tyrellian's gonna be a problem. If you remember how the whole cinematic went down, you know, Illyria was asked about him, and she kind of just got quiet, and then we heard the Void comment from Khadgar, so we'll have to see how Tyrellian goes out, but I don't know who this Light Emperor is. I guess he's on the other side of the world. Also, boot.dev, use code Dorn, there you go.
Paid membership unlocks the interactivity, and even cooler, if you do spend money, they're so confident that you will actually like it that they're offering a 30-day no questions asked refund policy. Click the link in the description and use my code TheDornsMovies, and you'll get 25% off your first payment. That's first month or first year, depending on the subscription that you choose. Check out boot.dev.
Do it.
So no need to speculate anymore on interviews, fake hints, as Hellfall just became a thing in the alpha, and we got like a barrage of new lore. So many questions were answered, and it looks like most of our previous speculations were actually true, but they just dropped some serious bombs on the Sword of Sargeras, on the Light and the Narrow, on Anduin, Azrael, the Visions, and a whole bunch of new...
I knew it, man. Hellfall was gonna bring us the best lore, and it has not disappointed. The amount of lore we're getting in Hellfall about the light, about the void, and Anduin gonna find his real light, all that shit, it's crazy.
Lore that is just super interesting. So to sum it up, yes, this is in fact the human kingdom that was formed beyond the Storming Sea. Another gigantic kingdom exists that we had never seen. These guys we're encountering in Hellfall were only an expedition that arrived 15 years ago, but there is a whole kingdom on some undiscovered continent, almost certainly on the other side of Azeroth.
Probably another Arathi, you know, or originating kingdom. That's what it sounds like, because that's where the Hellfall guys come from. They are Arathi, right? I mean, I guess most humans, that's like the origin of humans, technically the first human kingdom. But it sounds like this other kingdom is a branch of that as well, one of the original branches.
Also, most interesting, not a kingdom, but in fact an empire, but we'll get to that in a bit. To very quickly set the ground so that all this makes sense for you, in Dragonflight we got 3 hints mentioning the shores, the Storming Sea, and some land that we had never seen. One was an old god document from Deathwing's lab talking about how Titans had hidden something beyond the waves. Then we got notes of a pirate that traveled to the other side of Azeroth and managed to reach a place
Yes, the Night Squall. This guy was like a pirate that went to the other side of the world and came back, and he was the first one ever to be able to return from that journey. Everyone else just disappeared.
There was a mention of how a green dragon didn't listen to the oppressive titans, and she ventured beyond the Storming Sea, where Tyr told her only death awaited her, but allegedly she survived. Now here comes the 4th hint, and that is that this new empire is also beyond the Storming Sea. So if you're familiar with the lore, you might know about the Arathi.
Something about the Arathi expedition is sus to me. I don't disagree. There's something weird going on with this overzealousness with the light and everything, who this light is, what it's all about. It just seems different from what we've been accustomed to when it comes to the light. So, yeah, something seems sus. I don't disagree.
Empire and how this was the lead human organization in the northern eastern kingdoms and how they united with the High Elves to battle the Trolls. Eventually and gradually they split into the 7 human kingdoms: Dalaran,
Right.
Stormwind, Alterac, Lordaeron, Kultiras, Gilneas, and Stromgarde. But apparently with this new lore, another human kingdom had split prior to this split, and now I no longer really have to speculate because they just told us how this actually happened. So these guys actually consider themselves the Arathi Empire. They call themselves the Arathi, and their emperor is essentially what appears to be claiming to be the original Arathi Emperor. By the lore that we know, the Arathi Empire was broken ages ago and no longer exists, but looks like these guys...
But these guys are more closely related to the original Arathi than our current human kingdoms are, because from what he was saying, they split off before the eventual split of all the kingdoms. Definitely. Hey, how do I fix the group finder? You got to do turn on the mature language filter.
Don't share the same history that we do. Previously, as we got hints that they're writing lynxes that seem to be native to Quel'Thalas, they named the Sun Crystal Beledar, which is oddly similar to Belore, the elven word for sun. We wondered if they were a mixed race kingdom, and the answer is sort of. According to the new information, humans and elves that were there to teach them how to use magic had set out together and departed from the eastern kingdoms, and eventually they mixed and a new race was created. But as
This explains the pointy-eared humans now. Okay, now that makes sense. Why they're pointy-eared humans. They went together with some elves. And of course, you know, when you're spending that much time together, things are going to happen. But that means that these Hallowfall humans come from this kingdom, which is interesting because it's on the other side of the world. But this new kingdom is actually off the coast of Pandaria, I believe. So the Hallowfall ones. So that's a long journey for them to make.
NPC says they don't consider themselves human or elves, but consider themselves as the Arathi. This has been evident with the fact that this new race is using various models. We can see an actual Elven NPCs, Kultiras NPCs with elven ears, as well as regular humans with elven ears. So it appears they might not actually all be half-elves.
Okay,
some could just be
all.
humans, some could just be elves, and some are a mix. But of course, we need to wait a little bit more to get complete information and all the models. So onto the story. These guys set out to a continent that we had never actually seen. Almost certainly this is the fabled Evaloran that has been set up and talked about for the past few years, and it seems very likely due to the similarity of the name Avalon that you might know from real world legends. However, now we got like a whole blank 1,000 year period on how they developed and what they had done, but luckily we have a ton of information to how they arrived to Kazakar, and this is so interesting.
These humans are going to be very different. I mean, you got like 1,000 years passing. You got a complete different evolution in terms of how they intermix with the elves, and different light religiousness, all that stuff. They're culturally, they're completely different. So it's going to be so cool to go and actually interact with these guys.
Because it implies so many new things and so many opportunities for the lore to go into some really interesting places. The new Arathi Empire is ruled, of course, by the Emperor, but based on the documents, these guys seem to be really devoted. They don't see him as just a ruler. We had found a document in the Ringing Deep, so one of the paladins...
It sounds like he's ruling by divine intervention or something, which is interesting.
He says some
downright
fanatical things. He praises the light of our grand empire and emperor, and he says that he's spreading the light of Beledar through these light-forsaken chasms. The flame's light guides us wherever we stride. My life for the empire, my life for the emperor. So as you can see, he is no ordinary ruler. I mean, these guys really like him. Of course, we can't tell whether the entire empire is light-based, but very likely it is that he sent out the light order, the light branch to the empire, to go towards...
I would say probably the first thing that we've seen even close to this in game is Turelian right now, right? He's a god emperor. Yeah, even more sus. I know that's the thing, is like, this sounds like this guy's ruling via, you know, their religious belief in the light, and we've never actually seen that in game. It's always been bloodline relations that have kind of ruled over the human kingdoms until now with Turelian. He's kind of ruling via the light, right? He believes that he's probably been placed on this throne and that the light is kind of ruling through him. So that's why this whole thing about dethroning him, I feel like it's going to cause problems, man. I don't know.
this vision. Blizzard told us in previous interviews that these guys are uber paladins and light fanatics. It is very likely that these Hellfall humans are a light branch of the army. Think of it something like a much more numerous silver hand. Also, it looks like Ferin Lothar, the new model we had discovered, is not actually their leader. It is just one of the children they had found on board, which with the last name Lothar also gives some really interesting implications on who she really is. So on to the really meat of the matter. This is how this crazy expedition actually happened. The Emperor apparently got a sacred vision of a final battle between the light and the dark, and he sent out these light guys to go there. Apparently, they were supposed to fight in a place called Renilash, where this battle was to take place. We still don't really know what that is exactly. And also, you might remember the light and the dark final battle vision
I remember this.
got, which is connected to this, but we'll get to that in a bit. So the expedition was sent to Renilash, and as they were traveling through the storming sea, they were caught in a storm. Also, quick note, the fact that they're using airships might be the reason they managed to actually reach the other side of Azeroth. It's very likely.
That's right. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I was saying that's a long journey for them to make, even to go to the other side of Azeroth, right? These ones, the Hellfall ones, came back somehow. Because right now the new Hellfall zone, it's in the ground just off the coast of Pandaria. So that's a long journey for them to make back. But I guess I forgot about their blimps. Yeah.
Regular sea ships couldn't actually accomplish it. Nonetheless, they were caught in a storm, and suddenly they were enveloped in golden radiance, and the entire armada was in an instant transported all the way to Hellfall, much to everyone's surprise. As General Steelstrike says, he was the one that was entrusted to seek out the Imperial prophecy. Now, they reached the star. They had actually named it Beledar. They confirmed it is the name they had created. As they had stated in previous video, this is very likely a mix between the Elven word Belore, which means sun, and they see the crystal as the sun, and our ship naming convention that usually ends like this. I mean, Vindikar, Genedar, Exodar, so Belore, Vindikar, Beledar. Now, here is the most interesting part. So, Anduin actually talks about this, and he says that the Radiant Song vision that he had gotten in that cinematic withdrawal is the exact same thing as the vision that the Emperor had gotten, and when he had personally arrived to Hellfall, he once again got the exact same vision. Also, the Arathi called the star Beledar the vision of the Emperor. Then a whole bunch of
vision of the Emperor. So they were told, supposedly this was a vision that they received of this crashing star, right? So I wonder if the Emperor was the only one who actually saw it, and he sent out this Hellfall expedition. Because originally I thought all of the people of Hellfall saw the vision. But now they're calling it the vision of the Emperor, so maybe he's the only. Maybe he is prophetic to them. I'm not sure.
Mages were supposed to set up a portal to connect it to the capital and to be able to reach the Emperor, but instead, all the mages died in the crash, and only one single mage survivor remained, who was an apprentice who never actually learned how to make a portal. They got no info from a military warden on how they were setting up.
The mages were for sure standing in the fire right after, right? Like the ship crashed. For sure, the mages wanted to cast, they stayed in the fire, and they all died. This is very lore-accurate information. All the mages died, yep.
Perimeter, and they were overran by the Nerubians, so the war against them started right off the bat. Since then, they have essentially been stuck, and they are barely holding on, especially as the Nerubians are now getting empowered with Zealotet. I gotta admit, I find it really strange that they managed to develop such crazy detailed architecture, buildings, and everything, seeing that they were just an expedition on a few ships with very limited resources, but I guess this is just gameplay.
They've been there
stuff.
for a long time.
Now, this here, though, is the most interesting part out of all of them. So, according to Anduin, Beledar is somehow connected to the Radiant Song. Previous lore told us that these Radiant warnings is what planets give before imminent doom. Apparently, the ethereal homeworld Karesh gave out these warnings and he had a world soul, but the ethereals only understood him too late, and Demencius, the Void Lord, had managed to obliterate the entire planet. Anduin says that he had examined the other crystals across the entire zone, and they were very similar to Azerite and very close to it, but it wasn't Azerite, which makes all this incredibly confusing. Personally, I think this is in fact another ship, but seeing that it is so close to Kazlagar, which we learned is like the heart chamber of the world soul, very connected to the world soul, it is very likely a mix of the light and the blood of Azeroth. However, you might have seen that the crystal started turning into darkness, but the timeline here is the most interesting thing. So apparently, the first time it ever turned dark was when they heard a great rumble, and that is when Sargeras had plunged the sword into Azeroth. For some reason,
yeah, this is interesting. I didn't know this until I watched this Dorn video, that the sword is the thing that started the whole shifting between light and dark for the crystal. And I wonder if Sargeras knew that was going to happen. You know, at the end of the day, he hates his siblings, and in a final act, he could have tried to open up a gate or open up to the void because, you know, they're anti-Titan, basically. So maybe he was trying to help the other side.
Impact all the way in Silitus had corrupted the crystal. My belief is that this could be a Naru. Quick lore throwback, but the Naru have these void cycles where they turn from like pure light to void gods, and that happens usually when they're injured. So it is possible that the impact of the sword had injured the Naru within Beledar, which caused it to start changing and flickering. However, it could be even more than that. If it is not a Naru, maybe that poison that was inside the Sword of Sargeras that we were cleansing for all these years somehow impacted the crystal. Maybe Sargeras was even aiming for the crystal itself. He knew about the crystal, but then again, I mean, why would he aim to help the void when his entire Burning Crusade was aimed to destroy the void? It is definitely too early to speculate for like these overarching storylines, but I think this is going to be a huge setup and might even connect Kazlagar to Silitus in some way. Also, the most interesting question is, why did they arrive 15 years ago exactly, and who gave the Emperor the vision of the final battle? Based on Anduin's view, it seems like this final battle...
Has it only been 15 years? That's lore accurate? Shit, I thought they were there for a lot longer than that. Damn. That's not that long.
Azeroth giving visions to help us defend her, but it is interesting why the light is involved in this entire thing, and how are the Naru connected in this entire matter? Has the light really sent a ship to help Azeroth, or has it just hijacked Azeroth for its own goals? Also, based on the timeline, they had arrived some 15 years before War Within, prior to the Sword of Sargeras, so most likely around the time of Cataclysm. Maybe it was the shattering that is...
That would make sense. Yeah, it could have been the shattering that caused the ship to crash.
This crystal and made some big changes, because as you may remember, it was N'Zoth and the old gods that was behind Dentwing's corruption, so the Emperor might have sensed this threat much earlier than we did. Almost certainly though, we're definitely going to reach this empire very soon. Remember, they planned to make a portal to their kingdom, but they ran out of mages, and they just had a
Damn, that could be an entire patch, right? Where you get the mages to figure out how to make a portal there, and then you actually go to this kingdom. That could be like a whole new zone patch. That'd be amazing.
Full of mages crash right next to their doorstep that are very well versed in making portals. It is almost certain that we will soon encounter this emperor, and we will discover a whole Arathi Empire we never knew existed. By all accounts, this seems to be a very well developed place, and based on the World Soul Saga timeline, very likely Evaloran will become patch content as early as War Within.
Oh shit, that'd be a crazy patch.
Coming back by clicking on the screen, and check out my video on the Cult of Mithras by clicking on the screen as well. See you next time.
Very cool. Yeah, I know a lot of people say, oh, Doran speculates a lot, but a lot of what he just said is factual stuff. He's pulling from the actual lore. Interesting stuff, though. The Light Emperor, the way they refer to him as kind of like godlike, and his prophetic, you know, rulings as a king. Interesting. Yeah, like I said, we haven't seen a king like that. But ruling via basically a religious rule or divine rule, that's gonna be a nice interplay that we haven't seen before. Go to the kingdom, get labeled a heretic, and get smited. Yeah, basically that's what could happen. Although paladins, who knows, they might enjoy it.